Good morning, everybody here in Avas Shalom, Kolal in Ramat Bet Shemesh. Good morning to our viewers in Torah Anytime and in YouTube. We are going to learn today why is it that when it comes to Jewish marriage, the chassan, the bride, does not give the kala. It doesn't give the bride a golden ring with a diamond. The diamond ring is customarily not given in the Jewish wedding, and the question is why. Yeah, it's not that we Jews are misers. There is another reason for that, right? Because we're not. Okay, let's get started. So now let's go. Who Gabo the Shiur Nishmat Avimai Menachem and Akiva Rus Bashalom Sol Bas Moshe and Lafuas, all the Cholim, may Hashem heal their wounds. Ahu Gavra Kiddushin Daf Zain Amud Beis, towards the bottom of the page. If you count from the narrow lines, we are in the third to last narrow line. Ahu Gavra de Akdish Beshiroi. A man was Makdish his wife, he was Mekadish his wife with Shiroi. Shiroi are expensive. Listen carefully to the definition of the Ran. Shiroi are expensive, but not super expensive clothes or jewelry. Brigdei Shiroin, in Hasidic literature, whenever you say Brigdei Shiroin, you refer to the Shabbos clothes of the Hasidim, the nice fancy shtreimel and all the shiny bekishes and all that. So Shiroim are either nice, fancy, nice clothes or jewelry, but they're not super expensive, which means a golden ring would be Shiroi, but a diamond ring would be Uber Shiroi. So a man was Mekadesh his wife to be, with Shiroi, with those nice clothes or nice items. Rabba Omar, lo yitzrichi shuma. Rabba says that there is no condition, there's no precondition that it has to be assessed, has to be evaluated before it's given to the kala. In other words, even if the kala doesn't know how much they're worth, by the time she receives them, it's still okay. What is the concern over here? We're going to see Machlokas Rabba and Rav Yosef. The concern is that although a woman is passive in Kiddushin, there's a lot going in her head, in her mind during the Kiddushin, and we have to make sure that she really is interested in the Kiddushin. So let's say, and that is a general concern over here, if the woman thinks that the ring is worth X and it's worth much less, then we may have a concern that she's not really Mekudeshes, because that's not what she had in mind. In other words, a woman as passive as she may be or may look in the Kiddushin, if the guy told the woman, Arat Mekudeshes li, on condition, I'm veering now to a little bit of a different issue, which we'll see in second parak. The guy told the woman, Arat Mekudeshes li, on condition that I am an NBA star and I finished just 3 times. She goes to the NBA site and she sees that he's not an NBA star, he's not there, and he only finished just 2.5 times. So she's not Mekudeshes, because there was a condition, right? So sometimes when you give the wife the idea that the Kiddushin are dependent on XYZ and XYZ are not there, then the Kiddushin may just not apply. With that in mind, let's read Rabbah again. Even though the woman did not know at the time of the Kiddushin how much they're worth, it does make a difference. You still don't need Shuma. Yeah? That is what Rabbah says. She seems to be happy, or so we're going to see later. It's not necessary, or she's okay with it, and we'll see why soon. Rav Yosef Omar tzrichi shuma. Rav Yosef says no. Before the Kiddushin, it's required that if you mekadesh the wife with something fancy and expensive, and the value may vary from people may think X and it's really worth Y. You have to make sure that before the Kiddushin, she knows how much they're worth. I'm not going to explain the Gemara because the Gemara is going to explain itself. Like the Gemara, wait a second. Actually, the Gemara is now ruling out all kinds of different explanations. Explanation number 1. Ida Omar la b'cholduhu. Let's say the guy told the girl, b'cholduhu, I'm mekadesh you with this very nice scarf, very nice, ring, yeah? But I'm telling you, whichever value it is, be mekadesh to me. B'cholduhu. In other words, he's telling her, I'm mekadesh to you, yeah, I'm mekadesh you, the way they are, as is. It's more than shove pruta, and therefore, in this case, she says, yes, fine. In other words, she's okay whether this gold ring, she has no idea about gold rings. She's absolutely okay whether the gold ring is worth 300 shekels, 30 shekels, or 3 shekels. She sort of nods her head. Yeah, whatever it's worth. You're worth to me more than anything. I don't care how much the ring is. Oh, whoa, whoa. Kula alma loy pligi, de loy tzrichi shuma. In such a case, shuma is not necessary because she agrees to the ring that's given to her, or the watch, or the drill, or the money, not money, no, or the scarf, whichever, however much they're worth. So there's no need to evaluate them because she doesn't care about the value. I'm going to point out already something now. It says in Iran and Shulchan Aruch today, the Kala doesn't know how much the ring is worth, and it's okay because if he gave her the ring and he didn't mention anything about money, it's as if he said, however much it's worth is okay, right? Because money is not mentioned, he wasn't smart in inverted commas to say, Aret Mukadeshes li betabadzu hashovo 200 shekels. No, he says, Aret Mukadeshes li betabadzu, meaning I don't care how much the value is. I'm not promising you any specific value. Then it's okay. Yeah, then it's fine. The Adim have to know the Shova Pruta. The Adim, they look at the ring and they see that it's Shova Pruta and belonging to the husband, yeah, to the Chosan. Usually in the, very frum halachic grupos, they do that. The Adim have a look at the ring and they say, yeah, and they know it's Shova Pruta. The Kala, she knows it's Shova Pruta. She never expressed any, preferences about 5 shekels or 50 shekels. So then, obviously, neither Abba or Rav Yosef would require pre-evaluation before the Kiddushin. Scenario number 2. Let's say promised her, this nice ring worth 50 or 50,000, yeah, 50 or 550, yeah. And at the end of the day, 3-4 days later, she went to the market and she saw le'achar ma'isa that it's not worth 50, then clearly she's not mukudeshes because they're not worth it, right? Yeah, in other words, it's not worth, anyways, who cares about pre-evaluating or not, right? If it's not worth the money, it's not worth the money. Retroactively, yeah, she goes home and says, you lied to me right at the start, right? And therefore, she's not Mukudeshes. It's not what she expected. He said, and she's going along with, I'm Mukudesh for 50, no less than 50. If it's less than 50, I'm not Mukudeshes. Keep pligi. So when is the Machlokas Rabban Rav Yosef? Yeah, we already ruled out 2 possible scenarios. So when do Rabbi and Rav Yosef argue? Second wide line, Kiddushin, Zain, Amud Beis. Yeah, Ki Pligi, when do they argue? The Omar Chamishin, the Shavu Chamishin. He said 50, and she's only interested if they're worth 50. And lo and behold, Enochinami, after 2 or 3 days later, she went to the pawn shop, to the, jeweler, and she saw they're really worth 50. So all is good. That is the machloikes. Why? Rabbi Omar, lo tzrichi shuma, the shabu chamishin, right? In other words, no need for shuma. Pre-kiddushin, shuma is not necessary. Why? Because at the end of the way, it was 50. She said, she was told it's 50. At the end of the day, it's 50. All's well, end is well, all is well, right? So if to have a kol tov, yeah? All is very good. Rav Yosef Armano, tzrichi shuma. Why? Oh, since a woman usually, yeah, here's a young girl, a woman is not always so bokeh, not so knowledgeable about what? About the value of jewelry, such as shiroim, right? And therefore, and she was told 50, she doesn't necessarily trust him. Lo samcha daito. Since at the time of Kiddushin, there was no smichus das, she's only latching onto the idea. He said it's worth 50. This is kind of expensive, and I'm not sure if he's right. Maybe it's only worth 30. Therefore, her smichus das was not there. And the Rishonim say that if she says clearly when it was worth 50, that retroactively she wanted it, fine, but otherwise no. Or up until the point of what? Up until the point of finding out how much it's worth, yeah, she's living in doubt. So she's not Mikudeshes, not even Sophic, unbelievable. Rav Yosef says, since she was told 50, there's value there, and there was no pre-evaluation, he says it's 50, I'm interested in 50, and I don't know if the guy's right. Either he's lying to me, or maybe he's wrong. I don't know if the Chosan knows exactly that it's really worth 50. We're making a very specific condition. Maybe it's worth less. I don't know. And therefore, in her heart of hearts, in some level of consciousness, she's not really willing to be miskadish. And therefore, that's a flaw in the Kiddushin, according to Rav Yosef. Having said that, now we have to go to the Ran, followed by the Shulchan Aruch, actually, which explains to us why really a Kala should not be miskadesh, and actually the Rabbeinu Tam already says that. Rabbeinu Tam says that, I don't know if we'll see it inside or not, yeah, Rabbeinu Tam says that a woman should never be miskadesh with a diamond ring, yeah? I don't know if you want to see it inside or not. Says the Ran, if you can get there, fine. If not, not. Says like this. Why did the Gemara Dafka speak about Shiroi? As I told you, Shiroi are not very cheap. They're nice, but they're not super expensive. It's a golden ring. Golden ring is a very nice thing. Yeah, you can give it a, yeah. But it's not a diamond ring. Why? Says Rabbeinu Tam. Really, halach is like Rabbah. Yeah. Rabbah says that if he said 50, and you know, a day later or 10 years later, we're really, in reality, they're worth 50. Yeah. We know it's somehow later down the line. In reality, Leonovi would be here, tell us this is worth 50. She does know it's 50, but it is 50. She's Mekudeshes. Yeah. She was told 50. At the end of the day, it's 50. That's good enough for us. Says the Ran quoting Rabbeinu Tam. He just says it in a way that's a bit clearer than Rabbeinu Tam. Yeah. And he says like this. Why did the Gemara Dafka speak about shiroi that are expensive but not super expensive? Some people know their value. A golden ring, women know how much a golden ring is. You know, they go shopping more than us. You know that, yeah? So therefore, in other words, a golden ring, you know, I don't know how much it's worth actually. I'm not a woman. Yeah, maybe 300 shekels. She thinks 280, 320. She knows more or less, and she's okay with that. There's a rough, ballpark figure for a golden ring, and she's okay with that. It's 50-50, beautiful. Let's say we're talking about Shiron Deluxe. Let's say he gave her this whopper of a real beautiful diamond ring, like, you see from all these, whatever, big jewelry stores, I don't know, in Manhattan, yeah? This really, really fancy golden with diamond-studded ring. Kemargolis ve'even toiva. Margolis ve'even toiva with a pearl or, some other gem. Some of them are worth much less than others. She's hearing a diamond ring. She's fantasizing already about something worth 50,000 shekels. In reality, it's 5,000 shekels. When it comes to big numbers, the margin of error is much larger. And there, right? And there, even Rabbi Moide, the Afalgav the Lomar le Deshavi Chamishin, Elomar lo Becholdu, the Tzrichishuma. Wow. In other words, let's say he told her, Et Mukudeshesli, with this diamond ring, wow, she fantasized her whole life of a diamond ring. Even though he didn't tell her al minas that it's worth 50, but she already thinks about numbers. When you see a golden ring, he didn't tell her anything about 50 in the first case, yeah? Then Rabbah says, and everybody says, listen, how much is it worth? Who cares how much it's worth? It's more than Shava Pruta. If he all of a sudden in the middle of the chuppah takes out of his kittel pocket, I'm joking, there are no pockets in the kittel, yeah? He takes out of the pocket a diamond ring, she gets all dazzled, and she's already thinking figures in her head. And could be the figure that she's thinking about is way, way off the mark from the real figure, because it's big numbers, it's a big thing, it's a big diamond, yeah? And therefore, says Rabbi, and in that case, she's not Mekudeshes, even if money wasn't mentioned. That's why the Gemara says Shiroim, to tell me that by Shiroim, which are expensive but not crazy expensive, unless money was mentioned, everyone agrees, here's a ring, shming, okay, good, all very nice. It's ring, it's not a ming vase, it's a ring. But when it comes to diamond stuff, things like that, even if nothing was mentioned, she may have the wrong figure in her mind. Omer Rabbeinu Tam, here's the punchline. That's why the minhag in Klal Yisrael is not to be mekadesh with a ring that has a stone in it, but rather a plain metal ring. Okay, and also there's the minhag mentioned Shulchan Aruch not to be mekadesh with money, with a coin, but rather with a ring. That states in the Ramah. I don't know of the other minhagim. I'm not talking about minhagim. This is all very nice and cool because when you ask people why is it that there's no diamond in the ring, they give you Kabbalistic reasons, Hasidic reasons, and all kinds of other lahavdil balabatish as it could be all right. But the Maisa, it's Allah. It's Allah and Shulchan Aruch, not to be mekadesh with a diamond ring because the numbers may be wrong. In other words, she may have a condition in her mind. Oh, I'm happy to be miskadish for this $50,000 worth ring with a diamond, not knowing that it's only worth 10,000. She's not a jeweler. Comes to jewelry, to real jewelry, the difference is big. That's why she's not mikadeshes in that. Ad kan opinion number one, the first way of understanding Rabbi and Rav Yosef. Okay, that's the halacha. Okay, now ikadamri. Some say last line. Some say Rabbi and Rav Yosef, even if the guy told her, however much it's worth, he told her outright, this is the ring. I don't care how much it's worth. You don't care how much it's worth. Yes, 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 I love you. I don't care about the worth of the money, of the ring, as long as it's more than Shove Pruta. Up until now, what did we say? Better. Nobody cares. Nobody knows. Yeah, and that's good. Yeah, even Rav Yosef agrees that if money wasn't mentioned outright, yeah, all is well. Rav Yosef Omar, some say no. The second opinion here comes to argue on that and says that even when money was not mentioned, value was not mentioned regarding the shiroim or the whatever, still Rav Yosef Omar, Shove Kesef Eruki Kesef, Rav Yosef says she has to know the value prior to the Kiddushin, even if money wasn't mentioned. Why? There are two ways to understand it. Now let's follow one way. Shove Kesef Eruki Kesef. We have this rule, yeah, in the Zikin, in Bovekama, the film is starting Bovekama soon, I think, today, tomorrow, yeah. Bovekama, we know Shove Kesef Kekesef. There are psukim who teach us that the Torah requires money. If you give your friend, let's say you damage someone's car, instead of paying him 2,000 shekels, you give him 2,000 shekels worth of oranges, apples and oranges, it's also good, right? Now, there's Kiddushin in the Torah. Yoshiv l'Rabbi Shove Kesef. If the Torah tells me that something worth money is considered like money, if so, we have to follow the rules of money down to the T, which means Ma kesef de kaitz, just like kesef is katzutz. What does that mean? We know how much it's worth. I'm not talking about shekel vis-a-vis dollar. You know that 50 shekels are worth 50 shekels. It says 50 on the note, yeah. Af shove kesef nami de kaitz. So to shove kesef. A shove kesef, something worth money, also has to, before you deal with it, before you're given the money, yeah, the halacha demands, or halacha supports the person who wants to know how much it's worth prior to the use of the money, of the shove kesef. Again, let me repeat. Just like kesef, we know how much kesef is worth. How much is 50 shekels? 50 shekels, yeah. How much is this ring? No. If you use the ring for kiddushin, and the Torah requires a woman should be miskadeshes with kesef, then you have to let her know how much it's worth prior to the kiddushin. Here there's a machlokes rishonim. The Ritva says this is simple and balabatish. The Rav Yosef says no. A woman has to know how much it's worth, even when the money wasn't mentioned. A woman may have the wrong idea, even when it comes to small amounts, or it comes to even without even if money wasn't discussed, right? Stam, you always have to know in advance. Although we're going to see psukim supporting this, I guess the psukim support this mindset. The other pshat is, yeah, that it sounds like that a little bit from Rashi. It's Xeris HaKosuv. Kinyan Kesef has to be done with the knowledge in advance that the Kesef is worth, the Shove Kesef, the item is worth X amount of money, right? In other words, if the Torah requires Kinyan Kesef, let's say by a woman. I want to make now a very, very important point which will really help us. We all know, we've all been brainwashed, Baruch Hashem, and everybody here in the room can tell me, in the middle of their sleep, that Choshen Mishpat is up to people. If you and I decide that if I go, that's a sign of Kinyan, so it's a Kinyan, right? I'm buying your watch from you. And we both decide in our own little world that for us, if I say, that means it's a Kinyan. If I say, it's not a Kinyan, it's up to us. Oh, that's very nice in Choshen Mishpat, not in Kiddushin. Kiddushin, Eishes Ish, Hekdesh, it's not up to you. A woman cannot be nikne b'chalipin. Let's say the boy and the girl say, we're okay, we can do kinyan chalipin. No, it doesn't work. Kinyan hagba, you lift her on a chair. No, there is no such thing. Yeah. Now the kinyanim of a woman, kiddushin is, as I define it to the boys in yeshiva, kiddushin is the gray area between choshen mishpat and Even Ezer. Yeah, because it's kinyanim like choshen mishpat, but you can't do whatever you want. The Torah prescribes 3 kinyonim, or maybe 4 according to Ravuna. These are the kinyonim. So here, clearly, if the Torah requires kinyan kesef, you have to follow the rules of the Torah Dikikin Kesef. You can't just say whatever you want, right? And therefore, according to the Shita, not like the Ritva, even if they both say, okay, let's say she's given some apples, I don't know, she likes apples, yeah? She has no idea how much they're worth, just more than Shava Pruta. It's not good. Says Rabbi Yosef, you have to know how much the apples are worth before you receive them as your Kesef Kiddushin, because there's a Gezer Sakosef that tells me, Shava Kesef Kekesef. Just like 100 shekels are worth 100 shekels, so too you have to know exactly before you receive the Kiddushin how much are the apples you're receiving worth, yeah? Even if you're interested. The other pshat says, the Ritva says, no. The chash is that she's not really interested and she's suspicious, even if it's not, even if money wasn't mentioned. But in any event, one thing everyone agrees, that according to Rav Yosef, even when it comes to small money, even when it comes to no mention of money at all, still the lady has to know how much is the value of the item she's receiving. Why? Because Shava Kesef has to be like Kesef itself. Just so you know how much Kesef is worth, so to you know how much the item is worth. Okay. Yeah, okay. Questions? Okay. Before we continue, I'll tell you the end of the story. We pass him a kraba that when it comes to regular rings, such as no diamonds, nothing super fancy, regular gold or silver, whatever they use, yeah. Then what? Then she gets the ring and she's okay and she's happy. And we don't assume that she's thinking of money, and we don't say that she has to know how much it's worth in advance. Unbelievable, unbelievable. I saw today in Shulchan Aruch Noise Kelim, why did they cover the face of the kala? So I always knew it's bedeken, like chuppah. It's a form of covering your face is like one of the many ways of chuppah. Apparently, they say that the kala, they cover her face so she shouldn't see the ring when she gets it. Because if she looks at the ring, she may think, oh, this ring is worth X and really it's worth Y. To symbolize the fact that she agrees to the ring, regardless of its value, you cover her face. That's why I know in Chabad, maybe other Hasidim, the mamish cover her face that she can't see. They cover her face, mamish she can't see at all. Yeah, she can't see at all what's going on. So why? Well, maybe there are many Kabbalistic Hasidic reasons which are above my, beyond my ken. But Lamaisa in Halacha it says to show she's miskadeshes with whatever she has to know it's Shava Pruta. Okay, she does. The Eidim also says Shava Pruta. But more than that, don't look what you're receiving. So you are showing you're okay with whichever value, and you're not like leering at the ring, thinking, 500, 5,000. To show that we cover her face. Unbelievable. You see, you learn new things every day. Live and learn. Yes, Rabbi. How do I know that interesting idea? Let's go for the Gzer Sakosov option. That really every kinyan of Shove Kesef, we have to know in advance. Both sides have to know. The recipient mainly has to know exactly how much the value is before receiving it. How do you know that? The Tanya, it says in the Brisa, and this Brisa talks about when you redeem an Eved Ivri, an Eved Ivri has to stay at least how many years? 6 years by the master. Let's say after the third year of his tenure, yeah, then what do we say? Some nice guy came and redeemed him from the Odoin. The Tanya. It says Mikesef. The pasuk says the full post. The pasuk says Mikesef Miknos. So how do you redeem him? You pay to him. I'm sorry. Mikesef Miknosoi Yoshiv Geulosoi. From the kesef of his mikna of his purchase, Yoshiv Geulosoi. Yeah, we return, and he's being redeemed that way. You give the money back to the Odoin, yeah, and then the Odin redeems the Eved, gives you back the Eved. Says the Droshe, Bekesef unikne, the enu nikne betvua bekelim. Very interesting. How do you redeem the Eved Ivri? Only with cash and not with tvua, not with any cereals, wheat, barley, cereals, yeah, the kelim or other items. No, you can't give the Odin shove kesef, only cash. That's the only way to redeem the Eved Ivri. So it seems cash only. Correct the Gemara, what's going on over here? Whoa, wait a minute. We're now trying to analyze the drosha. Hi tvua v'kelim hechidami. What's the story of those tvua v'kelim, actually food and dishes, food and items that cannot be given in return of the Eved Ivri? What's going on? Ilema de lo maknu behu klal. Yeah. If you want to tell me that it's impossible to purchase the Eved Ivri or redeem the Eved Ivri, by the way, it's the same thing. To redeem him is the same way you purchase him, Rashi says. If you say that you cannot redeem him, it's cash only and nothing worth cash, doesn't make sense. Yoshuv Giulosoi Omer Achmona Lerabash Vekesef Kekesef. As I told you, the next words in the posuk are Yoshiv Giulosoi. He should return and be redeemed. The word Yoshiv is extra, is redundant, and it's coming to tell me, says the dosha, Shvekesef Kekesef, in your face. Just the other way around from what you said, yeah? Shovekesef, any valuable item, is as good as money. So wrong. You can't say that kesef v'kelim can never be used to redeem or buy the eved. That's wrong. Now option number 2. Maybe those kesef and tvur, let's shover pruta, 2-3 garinim, 2-3 grains of wheat, or some very, very old, torn, tatty shoe, they're less than shover pruta. And the Torah is coming to tell me you can't redeem the eved for something less than shover pruta. Says the Gemara, we coming to tell me, then it's not only Tvuah V'Kelim, Afilu Kesef Nami, even money would be the same thing. Why are you victimizing the misken, the Kesef V'Kelim? Even if you give cash, and the cash is less than Shveh Pruta, it's 10 agorot, then it's not valuable either. It's nothing to do with Kesef versus Shveh Kesef, it's about being less than Shveh Pruta, and every child knows anything less than Shveh Pruta is not money, not value in halacha. It's like less than kazais. Yeah? Lahavdil. Elalav must be as follows. The third and only option, the elalav, the isbul shoveputa. Really, we're talking about kesef, tvua v'kelim. We're talking about food or items, utensils that are valuable. They're shoveputa, they couldn't be shove $1,000. The kemen de lo kaitzi loy. What's the difference between money and items that are not money? Money, I know how much it's worth. But Kalim, come to my house, come to anyone's house. You have some fruit in your kitchen. You have some, vegetables. Yeah, can you tell me all the fruit and vegetables, in someone else's house, how much they're worth? No. Yeah, you don't know exactly how much those 5 carrots and 2 tomatoes are worth exactly, right? No. Since the since the Tvua V'Kelim, we don't know how much they're worth. If we don't know how much they're worth, you cannot redeem the Eved with them. Because Eved, like a woman, the Torah has a clear prescription of how the way he's going to be redeemed is with money and money only. What's money only? Either money itself, cash, or maybe a bank transfer, or Shove Kesef, whom we know how much it's worth. Yeah, we know how much it's worth. You have to be paid to him with, 2 tons of tomatoes, but the 2 tons of tomatoes, before they were given to the owner of the Eved Ivri, swapping for the Eved Ivri, you have to go to a professional assessor. What? Assessor. The professional assessor who tell you exactly how much those 2 tons of tomatoes are worth, or maybe tomatoes, whichever one, and what. And you have to know how much they're worth. Then and only then you proceed to do the swap. Says Rabbi Yosef, you see that I'm right. Here's my source. That before you do a halachic toyridik transaction, such as a vodim or lahavdil a woman, you have to know how much is the value of the shoveh kesef that you're about to use prior to the actual usage. Otherwise, they're not called shoveh kesef. That is Rav Yosef's that's his leg to stand on. That's his proof. Veidach. Give me one more, and then questions are welcome in one more move. Frag the Gemara ve'idach. Who's the idach? Rabbah. Rabbah said no. Rabbah said, listen, if the girl heard no mention of value, tabad, that's a nice little ring, okay. Says Rabbah, she doesn't have to know how much it's worth, yeah? And we're not concerned. Maybe she thinks, maybe she this. No gzeras hakosov, the Torah never requires that you know how much. In other words, according to Rabbah, we are talking here about 2 adults consenting, and him and her, or 2 businessmen doing the business. If I'm giving Tzvi is a good friend of mine, and so is everybody here in the room. Yeah, just pick you as an example. Yeah, it's Tzvi because he's not here. You're the first in line now. Yeah, Tzvi. How much is a motorcycle again? You tell me a motorcycle 15,000 shekels last time. The last year became 20,000 on inflation. 14. It's going down. No, I thought inflation. 14,000 shekels for a Tzvi motorcycle, and I'm now giving you all kinds of items in my house. Yeah. Okay, out of my furniture. I'm giving you a few pieces of furniture I have in my house, my sofa, my chairs. And listen, Tzvi, I think it's more or less 14,000. And you said, okay. And I say, okay. Beseder. Says Rabbi, why not? Right? Okay. You don't know if it's 14,000. You're a nice guy. You trust me, at least at the time of sale. Although there's no professional assessment by parents over here, But Lamaisa, I said, I think it's 14,000. Oh, okay. And we're both okay, no problem. Rabbi says even by Kiddushin, which are much more chamor, if both sides are okay, she thinks it's worth whatever it's worth, and he's better. Go ahead, says Rabbi, no problem. The question is, what would Rabbi do with the pasuk? Rabbi, what? How would he face the pasuk of Rav Yosef? Because Rav Yosef just proved to us that there's a pasuk where in Eved Ivri that tells us that the tvua v'kelim cannot be used, and must be tvua v'kelim means tvua v'kelim which were not professionally assessed. They cannot be used. They cannot be used. So how can Rabbi say that it can be used? Answers the Gemara, Hachi Komar. I have a whole different shot on this pasuk, says Rabbi. Completely wrong what you said. I have a whole different shot on the pasuk that tells me that tvua, the kelim, cannot be used to redeem an Eved Ivri. What's the pshat of Rabbi? B'toiras kesef unikne, ve'nikne b'toiras tvua v'kelim umaninu chalipin, which means as follows. As I told you yesterday, and as you all know very well, two people can do the same physical act with the same item of kinyan, but their kavana is very different. Says the Torah, Eved Ivri, you may give the owner of the Eved Ivri, is not really owner, the master of the Eved Ivri, the employer of the Eved Ivri, may be given kesef, kelim, shoes, bananas, tvua, computers, whatever you want, without assessing. So what's the Torah telling me? When is the Torah limiting me not to use tvua v'kelim? You can only use tvua v'kelim if you use them as kesef. You knock on the door and you say, "Hi, I'm from the Anti-Slaves League. What's this Eved Ivri doing by you? And I'm redeeming the Eved Ivri from you with bananas and computers and shoes and socks and benches. And I'm telling you, this I'm giving you as money. This is kinyan kesef." Then everything's fine, says Rabbi. You don't have to know the exact, if both sides are okay, you don't have to know the exact evaluation. But if you say those tvua, the kelim, those shoes, and those fruit, and those vegetables, and those cereals, I'm giving you as chalipin, which is a different kinyan, which we learn from Megillas Ruth, which is mentioned above Metzia Daf, Mem's Hain Amud Aleph, which is kinyan of what? Of symbolic swap, yeah? You may even give back to me the bananas later, and the money will be discussed later. That cannot be done. In one simple sentence, Eved Ivri cannot be bought or redeemed by Chalipin. Setu. That's all. Eved Ivri can be nikna with Kesef and redeemed with Kesef, and not with Chalipin. The Torah's way of telling me Chalipin no, that Chalipin is excluded, is calling them Tvua the Kelim, because Tvua the Kelim traditionally are the things used for Chalipin, and the Torah's way of saying, hey, Chalipin is not an option, is to tell you not Tvua the Kelim. But it has nothing to do with evaluating in advance. No way you have to evaluate in advance. Thank you for your patience, because this has to be asked right now. What did you just say? Excuse me. What did the Rebbe just say now online in the video? The what? That Chalipin is traditionally done with fruit or kelim? Frag the Gemara, if you remember, Bob Metzia, Ula Daf Mem Zayin, Ula Rav Nachman de Omer Peres, Lo Avdi Chalipin, Michael Amema. Rav Nachman says, yeah, it says in the Ksuvim in Rus that what did Boaz do? Gave the shoe. It was a minag to give a shoe. In return, you get the field. Obviously, you have to pay much more later. What's a shoe? A shoe is a kli. A shoe is a kli, a wholesome, intact kli. Yeah, and then it says kol dovo, anything. Says Rav Nachman, when it says kol dovo, it's not coming to include fruit and vegetables, but rather Rav Nachman says, how did they do it in the times of Rus? With a shoe. A shoe is something that stays for a long time, unless it's made in China. The shaken fruit are not kelim. Fruit are not kelim. The Torah says use a kli for chalipin, such as what? Such as a shoe. Computer, sock, shoes, glasses, books are all kelim. Use them for chalipin. Peros are consumable, are perishable, are not as long-lasting as kelim, not as important as kelim. They cannot be used for chalipin. If so, Michael Maimer, you just told me what? When the Torah wants to the Torah wants to exclude and disqualify Eved Ivri from chalipin from Eved Ivri, it's giving the example of Tvua v'kelim. Tvua is the worst example for chalipin according to Rav Nachman. Other opinions say otherwise. Rav Nachman is not good. Ella, we switch everything now. Ella, you know what Ella means in the Gemara? Complete redo, a complete refurbishment of the whole house here. All, the Gemara is revoking what it said before. Le'olam deles behu shove peruta. Wow. Really, those tvua v'keli mentioned in relation of Eved Ivri to disqualify tvua v'kelim from Eved Ivri, we're talking about tvua v'kelim that are worth less than shve pruta, because they're not shave pruta, they're worth less than 10 agorot. That's why those kelim and tvua cannot be used. We've been there before, and we said we rejected this answer. You told me before, if you talk about less than shve pruta, what do you want from poor tvua v'kelim? Even money, cash, less than shve pruta is not worth anything. It cannot be used for the Eved, right? So what are you telling me, dafka, about tvua v'kelim? Anything below shve pruta is not worth anything. Answers the Gemara, whopping teretz, and that's the final stage over here. And soon questions are coming. Lomi baikoma. We're not trying to tell you, the Gemara is not trying to tell you that items less than shve pruta are not good, but cash less than shve pruta is good. On the contrary, Lomi baikoma means needless to say, which means Lomi bai kesef, needless to say that cash less than shve pruta. What can you do with cash, kesef, cash? Less than shve pruta, 3 things: nothing, nada, zero, garnished. 4 things: nothing. You can't go to the market with it. Garnished. You can't do with a coin less than 10 agorot. You can't do anything. By the way, there is no coin in this country less than 10 agorot, right? There's no such thing, yeah? And therefore, surely, such a thing, of course, you can't use to redeem the Eved Ivri. The is shve pruta in iloi. If there's shve pruta, yes, you can use the money. Otherwise, no. Wait a second. Let's say you have a very small piece of mango. I love mango. Very small piece of mango. If you go to the store, he would tell you it's worth 9.5 agorot. Is there something you can do with a very, very small piece of mango? Yes, eat it. Even make a bracha on kol shehu. So items worth less than shve pruta, although they're not worth anything, yeah, but they're something. You can use them. Or kalim, it's a tiny piece of tissue. Yeah, I don't know, half a tissue may be worth less than 10 agorot. What can you do with half a tissue? If you're really desperate, excuse me, you blow your nose, yeah? Oh, so that's a different story. Continues the Gemara. Aval tvua v'kelim, tvua, food, and kalim, items, ema, I would have suggested, I would have entertained the thought, the midikar v'hanayosu, because the hano is close. In other words, there is hano, there is usage of them. They are of use to you. Gomer makni nafshe. I would have thought that maybe the person is interested in doing the kinyan, the woman, the eved, v'chulei. Kamash malan, no. Kamash malan, that kesef, tvua v'kelim, even tvua v'kelim, that's in shve pruta, although they may be usable, halachically they're considered as nothing, and therefore you cannot use them for anything, including the Eved Ivri. Let's summarize, and I'll be very happy with your questions. Again, we have Mechlokes Rabba and Rav Yosef according to the second Mishnah. Rabba says, no problem, you can use any kind of ring or whatever you want to Mekadesh the woman, less than shve pruta. No. Shve pruta, yes. Does she have to know how much it's worth? No. If you did not specify any numbers, she doesn't have to know. She doesn't care. Rav Yosef says, no, she has to know. It's like a halacha. Halacha told you that shav kesef is only worth something if it's similar to kesef in the sense that you know how much it's worth in advance. And then Rabbi and Rav Yosef had an argument. Rav Yosef saw the source from Eved Ivri. Tvua v'kelim cannot be used. There was one sentence about Eved Ivri. Tvua v'kelim can't be used. That kind of made everyone irritable. What do you mean they can't be used? They're worth money. Rav Yosef says, no, they can't be used unless you told the master of the Eved how much are worth in advance, and we've been to a professional assessor evaluation. And Rabbi says, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means to tell you that kesef v'kelim and tvua, all of them together, kesef or tvua v'kelim, if the less than shve pruta, can't use them. Even items that may be usable, they may be of use. If they're less than shve pruta, they're still worth nothing and you can't use them. Questions for you? Tea break for me? Yes, rabbis? Right. So the question Robert is asking, mainly, but I'm polishing your question, but I'm putting a diamond on your question. Mele Kiddushin, a girl can't decide I'm Kaddish whichever way I want. No. Kiddushin is Kiddushin. It's not, you're not selling yourself, you're doing something like Hekdesh that's beyond your own idea and Haskama. But when it comes to, so therefore the girl may have to know how much it's worth. She has to know how much it's worth in advance. When it comes to Eved Ivri, you put an Eved Ivri from the master, in this case a goy, and if he agrees with this whichever amount, with this unprofessionally assessed amount, with this more or less ballpark figure amount, why isn't it good for us? What does Rav Yosef want? Oh, shtei tshuvas b'dover. Either Gzeras HaKosuv, or you can say that if the person says, that sounds more like the Ritva, according to the Ritva, let's say the girl in Kiddushin or the man in the case of Eved Ivri, at the beginning they agreed. Yeah, at the beginning they said, Tzvi and I, we trust each other, you and I trust each other. 14,000. The Eved is worth 14,000. I'm giving you pieces of furniture worth 14,000, and he's happy. And then a day later, he comes and says, "No, I'm not happy. I didn't know how much they're worth." Unless he said clearly, "I am happy," even though they're not properly assessed, there was nothing clearly said or written. That everything was a bit, up in the air. Then, according to Rav Yosef, the man can say the Torah supports the mindset that says, "No, I didn't know how much they're worth. I didn't know how much they're worth." Yeah, Mashenk and Rabbi would say no. If yeah, if you agreed, you agreed. Finished. Kach nirudi. I may be wrong, but that's what I think. Anyway. Now comes another source for Rav Yosef. There's a question in the Rishonim of the Achronim if Rav Yosef wants to support the first version of Rav Yosef or the second one. As we go along, we're going to find out Be'ezras Hashem. But anyway, Rav Yosef now has another source for the idea of what? Rav Yosef, in both Lishnas, Rav Yosef idea was more into what? Telling us that you have to know, the wife has to know, the other side, the receiving side, has to know exactly how much it's worth before the transaction is done. Amar Rav Yosef, how do I know that? The Tanya, it says in the Brisa, Egel ze lepidyon b'ni, pidyon aben. Pidyon aben, again, that's a very, very clear case of, can do whatever you want. You have to give 5 sloim, no more, no less. You have to give 5 sloim to the kohen, right? And then your first son is redeemed. That's it. And you just have to give 5 sloim. Can you give other items instead of 5 sloim? Can you give a computer worth 5 sloim? Says the Brisa. Not so simple. Egel ze lepidyon b'ni. A person says, this egel, this calf, or this baby cow, the calf, is for the pidyon of my son, without mentioning money. Talis ze lepidyon b'ni. That item, that clothing item, that garment is there. With that, I'm going to be poida, my son, loy omar klum, because he did not assess, he did not have proper evaluation. We don't know that this calf and this jacket, this suit, are really worth 5 sloim. You decided so, and you didn't even mention 5 sloim. So you're being very, very, very ambiguous. Yeah, you didn't say anything. Even if you gave it to the coin and the coin received it, you didn't even specify the amount. You didn't assess it. You don't know. However, if he said egel ze b'chamesh sloim lepidyon b'ni, if he said this egel is 5 sloim, and he says it's worth 5 sloim, and I'm giving it in lieu of money, I'm giving it to the kohen to redeem my son. If he said it's worth 5 sloim, then it's good enough. Frag the Gemara, don't be misled. What are you asking? What are you asking to me? Oh, you one step ahead. One step ahead, you're right. In other words, good. You're ready for the question. Frag the Gemara, if you noticed in the second statement, which is all good and nice, they didn't go to a professional evaluator. Who decided it's 5 sloim? The giver. Frag the Gemara, hi pidyon hechidami. What's the story of this pidyon exactly? Hilema deloy shavi. What do you mean he said it's worth 5? I said, my name is, I don't know, Donald Trump. Yeah, I said, if loy shavi, if it's not worth 5 sloim, right? Kol kamine, how can he decide it's worth 5 sloim? I'm selling you this phone for 5,000 shekels. I decided it's worth 5,000 shekels. I decided I'm the president of America, right? Great. No. What do you mean you decided? Kol kamine, is it within your ability, within your authority to decide it's worth 5 sloim? El alav must be afal gav deshavi, even though it's really worth 5 sloim, meaning after the kohen received it, it's all a question of time. it was found out that Mr. Giver was right, and it's worth 5 sloim, right? A day or two later, they went to the shop and they saw that the egel and talis aren't worth 5 sloim. So is it all end well? Is all's well? Would you say that? No. The came and the loy kaitzi loy. Oh, that's a story, which means the first statement of the Brisa tells me there was no pre-evaluation. Nobody evaluated it professionally, right? He gave it to the egel to the Kohen. The Kohen received the egel worth X. Afterwards, it went to the shop. Ah, lucky us. Ah, fluk hashgacha protis. It's worth 5 sloim. No, it's not good. Because at the time of the giving, we have to then know it's worth 5 professionally so. And the Sefer says when he said it's worth 5 sloim, it's not just him. He says, I know it's worth 5 sloim. I evaluated it. I went to the assessor and he told me that the egel is worth 5 sloim. The veterinary said that. And then you gave the 5 sloim worth egel, then it works. No, you see exactly like Rabbi Yosef. You see Rabbi Yosef is right, is absolutely outright, downright right. Yeah, we see that before the giving, you have to know how much it's worth. It has to be kotzutz, and then it works. Otherwise, no. And you don't work retroactively. You see Rabbi Yosef is right, and not Rabbah. Rabbah never. Rabbah would tell you no. Rabbah, what would he say in that case? No. I can give the Kohen egel worth X, I don't know, variable. And if we find out later that it was worth 5, nice, you go online. You check yesterday the price of such a cow was worth 5 sloim. Rabbi says, okay, fine, good. And they both trust each other, both good. Oh, Rabbi says, no, at the time of the giving, it's not worth money. In other words, you have to understand something. According to Rabbi Yosef, the Poshup Pshat of the Gemara, it's Xeris HaKosuv. I should have explained it to you before when you asked the question, Yaakov. According to Rabbi Yosef, items are only worth money if we know how much the money is worth. The knowledge is not a side thing. Baruch Hashem, Hashem, thank you, Hashem. Oh, here's a lomdus. Oh, finally, a little bit of iyun over here. According to Rabbah, knowing and not knowing the price is a technical thing. It's a technical thing. I don't know how much it's worth, but if it's really worth 5, and eventually, really it's worth 5. I don't know, it's 5. Who cares? Who says I have to know? Is egel worth 5 slime? Yes. Do I know? I don't know. Who cares? The mice, it's worth 5. Says Rabbi Yosef, no. In order for egel or talis or tvua or computers or socks or shoes to be considered as halachic kesef, the recipient has to know how much they're worth because otherwise they're not kesef. And that makes a lot of sense actually. It's not even exactly Xeris HaKosuv. When you have 200 shekels in your pocket, you have some kind of security. I know I have 200 shekels in my pocket, right? But let's say somebody chas v'shalom has to run away from the south to the north, yeah, and he does, and he chaps a few things in his, he puts a few things in his suitcase, and he knows he has to sell them. He doesn't know how much money he has there, right? He doesn't know how much money is there. It's more unsettling. So having items whom you don't know how much they're worth is not called having money halachically. It's not just a technical thing. Therefore, halacha doesn't bichlal recognize it as money. In order for the oranges to be called money, you need 2 conditions: that it will be worth money, and that you know how much the value is. Only then you can use them as money. Yeah, no, good. Consider. Question? But you have to know the mechir shuk before you use it halachically. That's all. You have to know it. You have to know it. And nobody says you have to go to a fancy assessor or pay him 1,000. You have to know how much it's worth. Amazing, fine, good. So then you solved it the other way. Why did they tell you about your carrots and tomatoes in your kitchen? Because you don't know how much is 2.5 tomatoes worth. But let's say it's something that's standard price, like regular milk. You know how much it's worth. As long as you know how much it's worth before you use it halachically for Eved or Isha or Pidyon and Ben. Either you assessed it by someone, or there's Mechir Shuk, like for the carton of milk in Israel, that's better. As long as you know one way or the other. Absolutely. We're talking Rav Yosef. Yes. Rabbah. In any event, Rabbah is now stuck. Because why? Because Rabbah, does not believe that you have to know in advance how much it's worth, right? You see from the Brisa of Pidyon and Ben, you do, right? The Brisa said, the way at least we read it now, that if you knew in advance that it's worth 5, then it's good. If you did not know it's worth 5, even though it was, you didn't know it's worth 5, then it's not good. That's outright against Rabbah. Says Rabbah, lo oilam deloi shavi. really the pshat of the brisa is that the kohen, not that he didn't know, the first part of the brisa is talking about an egel or a talis or a computer or a chair that are really not worth 5 sloim. Now, if they're not really worth, excuse me, the sefer, the ratio, they're not worth 5 sloim. He's just fantasizing and he decided. The sefer is when the guy who, the giver, the father of the baby, who's 1 month old, all greening and nice, says, he says it's worth 5. Correct you. What do you mean it's worth 5? Who? How can the giver decide it's worth 5? I owe you 14,000 shekels, and it says to him, I decide this is worth 14,000. It's ridiculous. Says the Gemara. The Kabil Kohen Iluye. The Kohen decided it's for him, it's worth 5. Then it's okay. Let's say there's something worth 10,000 in the market, but Tzvi is a nice guy, and he says, okay, those 10,000, I decided as a recipient to what? That for me they're worth 14,000. Then it's good. If I agree and you agree, 2 adults consenting, fine, gesundheit. In that case, even though really, sorry for the example, yeah, even though really, yeah, the market price is not 5 sloim for that egel, the egel is only worth 4, but the coin says for me it's worth 5, that is good enough, and that is a chiddush, yeah, because everybody else thinks it's worth 4. For you, it's worth 5, it's really worth 5. But it has nothing to do with what Rav Yosef, my colleague Rav Yosef, says. Now, you may ask, what's the chiddush? Look at the chiddush. Ukegoin the kabil kohen iluye ki hoder of kahana shakil sudra mi bepidin ben. Rav Kahana was a kohen. Yeah, there were 2 Rav Kahanas, by the way, in the Gemara says. One was a kohen, one was not a kohen. It's just the name was Rav Kahana. Yeah, his wife was a kohenes. Rav Kahana took a sudar, which is like a head scarf. Yeah, and he took that mi bepidin ben. Rav Kahana, instead of getting 5 shiny coins, he would get a sudar, which was cheaper than 5 sloim, and he would receive that as a 5 sloim. How could that be? Omar Lei, he said to the new father, Ledidi chazili chamesh sloim. For me, it's worth 5 sloim. I decided for me that nice scarf is worth 5 sloim to put on the head, and therefore it's good enough. Okay, all fine and dandy. Comes the Gemara with a big caveat. Omar Avashi, Lo Moron, you can't always say that. You can't just play a game and say, let's decide for me it's worth 5 when it's not really worth 5 for you. No, you have to mean what you say. Lo Moron Elokigon Rav Kahana. It's only true by Rav Kahana or people like him, the Gavra Rabahu. Rav Kahana was a great man. Sudra Reshe. Rav Kahana was a great man, therefore he would always cover his hair, his head. Yeah. Rav Kahana would always wear a kippah, or instead or on top of, he would have like a scarf, like the Sephardim Kubalim with the Baba Sali. He would have something on top of his head all the time. You see, Moroccans are right. Yeah, that at the end of the day, yeah, he would always have something covering his hair, and therefore he always needs it. It's a real need by him. For him, that's worth 5 sloim, right? For him, it's really worth 5 sloim. Aval kula al maloi. Other people are not so makpi to have that extra, kisui rosh over the head. For them, it's not, right? Okay, for them, it's not worth anything. Yeah. For example, another example, Malba Avashi, Zoban Sudra Me'ime Deraba Mikubi. He also was a Talmid Chochem, and for him, the Sudar, the scarf, the headscarf, was important for him. So he bought a Sudar from the mother of Rabba of Kubi. Kubi was the name of a place. And he bought a Sudar from the mother of Rabba Mikubi, Shavi Asara Betleisar. He bought a scarf worth 10 zuzim, 10 whatever, for 13. For 13. The Rishonim say, why 13? To show you that it's more than remember Hazov? In other words, 13 is more than it's more than a 6, more than a 5th, more than 6. It's a lot. 3 out of 10 is a lot of money. And yet for him, he can't complain and say, no, I didn't mean it. Because if he accepts it, it says, oh, wow, I need scarves all the time. I need them. I wear them. For him, if it's really valuable in the eyes of the Kohen, that egel is really worth 5 for the Kohen. He's not some faking and saying, you know what, let's slip it in a ben. I don't have time to get 5 sloim. I have this egel in my herd. Let's get the egel. It's worth 4. And the Kohen is humoring him along and saying, okay, for me it's worth 5. No, you have to really mean and prove that for you it's worth 5, right, as a Kohen. And then and only then you can receive it as a gift of Pidin Ben. But in any event, one thing Rabbah came out very nice with flying colors, that Rabbah says this brisa does not talk about knowing the value in advance, which is your thing, Rav Yosef, not my thing, says Rabbah. I think the brisa is telling me something completely different. It's coming to tell me that sometimes the item is not really worth X, let's 5 sloim, but if it's really worth 5 sloim for this particular Cohen, then yes, then we can give it for 5 sloim. Okay, we can finish here the 2 dots. We're not really doing the whole Amud, but we're close. Questions, comments? Thank you to everybody over here, YouTube channel people, and our very dear friends at Torah Anytime. Atzlocho brocha, peace upon this land, and all Jews all over the world will be safe and sound and have a very, very good day. Atzlocha ubrocha.